Good morning. You're all over here. I gotta move. I should have thought of that when I seated you. My name is Reverend Shay McKay. I'm one of the ministers here at Unity, and I welcome you into this space, into this place today that we make sacred by our gathering. We are here in a Unitarian Universalist sanctuary, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with Unitarian Universalism, but one of the things that we do whenever we gather together as a community is we light a chalice. And we light the chalice for multiple reasons. One is it's a symbol of our faith, and it's a symbol of the light of the sacred and the holy that dwells within each of us. Two is it's a symbol of the fire of commitment that we have to create a better world, to make a better world for everybody. And three, and the reason that is so important for us today, is the flame symbolizes the warmth of community, of family and community and coming together and holding each other in both our joyful times and our sorrowful times. And so today, as we come together to both celebrate a long and beautiful life and also say goodbye to someone who's very important to us, we light the chalice in honor of Julius and each other. So I will do that for us as we begin. So in this hour of holy stillness, we gather to honor the life of Julius. We remind ourselves as we light this flame that the flames of life are never fully extinguished, but live on in the light that Julius brought into this world and in our memories of him. Out of life and out of loss, we gather here together to remember, to celebrate, and to say goodbye. Our hymn this morning, due to a snafu in traffic, Ahmed was not able to get here in time. But I trust we can sing this hymn together without piano, because it is familiar. So I'm going to invite you to rise as you are willing and able. And this is to the tune of the Old 100th. If you know that, you will probably recognize it as we start singing. If you do not know that song from name, you will probably know it by ear. And it goes like this. Through north and south and east and west. Got that? Does that sound familiar? Karen, Marisa, and Laura will sing it loud for you. All right. Let's sing it through twice. Through north and south and east and west, may God's immortal name be blessed. Hallelujah, hallelujah, till everywhere beneath the sun, God's reign begins, God's will is done. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Through north and south and east and west, may God's immortal name be blessed. Hallelujah, hallelujah, till everywhere beneath the sun, God's reign begins, God's will is done. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Beautiful. I'm not going to chastise those of you who weren't singing. You may have a seat. My understanding is that this was a popular hymn from your childhood here at Unity and other churches, and it's a beautiful hymn. So, as I said, we come here together to both honor, celebrate, and mourn the loss of a great man, someone who is very important in your lives and the lives of many, many others throughout both his professional work and his personal life. And there's a poet, Irish poet named John O'Donohue, who talks about when we lose somebody we love, our life becomes strange. And that is true. Losing somebody we love, no matter how long we've had them, no matter how sick they were or how quick or sudden the death was, leaves a hole in our lives, an absence of someone who is woven so tightly into the fabric of our lives. And it is a process and a journey of grief as we learn to live our lives around that absence, for it never really goes away. We just learn how to live with it and mold our lives around it and do what we can to keep him and his memory alive in our lives and in the world. And so that's what we are doing here today. We come together because we come to grieve together, but also to keep him alive, to share our stories, to share the things he taught us, to live our lives the way he would want us to. And so to begin in telling those stories and saying our gratitudes and our goodbyes, I believe Karen is first this morning. It has to be in the microphone if we want it on the live stream. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Dead.
There you go.
I just wanted to say this morning, I will remember my dad as a lifelong learner, someone who loved reading, was super curious about many different things in life. He loved sharing those things. He loved teaching. One of the first things my father taught me was how to ski when I was 5 years old. We lived in Elmendorf Air Force Base in Anchorage, Alaska. My dad takes me out. I'm very small. My mother says, carry those skis. My father says, if you are going to ski, you'll have to learn to carry your own equipment. So I struggled along with my bundle of skis and poles. And the thing I remember, my dad would take me up between his legs on the tow rope, and he would leave me at the top of the hill. And then he would go and take some runs. I would ski down. He'd meet me at the bottom, and up we'd go again. We skied many times throughout our years together, skiing in Aspen and Vail with our good friends, the Troops and the Englands. We skied in Bozeman, Montana. We skied here, a different kind of skiing. Another great memory I have of my dad is when we were kids in elementary school, we always all ate breakfast together. And my dad loved to explain to us things in the universe. And so he would take the sugar bowl. This was the sun. He would get the salt and pepper shaker. Here's the earth and the moon. And he's moving these things around on the table. As he would explain to us things in the universe. And that continued throughout his lifetime. One of the last things I remember in recent years was my dad's excitement about information having to do with telomeres and how this can help people to live longer depending on the size of your telomeres or how they're encoding your genes or protecting your genes. So he was very excited. It was good to know. And the last thing I guess I would say is that my dad loved music, and he had said to me that he had wanted very much to be a singer, and he had been in a band for a period of time, and his parents told him that he could become a singer once he'd finished medical school, but that seemed a more appropriate career for him. So he never did join a band. He did sing here in the choir. He sang in the choir at our Unitarian church in Bellevue, and my dad sang just wherever he went, in the hospital, in our home, and yeah, music was just a wonderful thing. So those are my memories. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. And next is Kayla.
Hello, everyone. It's very nice to see everyone's faces. I wanted to start with just a short poem that I wrote for my granddad. I was with you just yesterday, and already it's been years. The sound of your laughter still echoes through the hallways of my heart, forever booming, much larger than life. My granddad was, above all, a joyful presence. He had a sense of humor that could fill a room. His laughter was impossible not to share. It's one of the things that I will remember most fondly. And as Karen said, he was endlessly curious about the world around him, always interested in discovering something new, hearing about the latest scientific breakthrough, learning about the newest technology, discussing the cosmos with me. He just had a genuine excitement for knowledge and discovery, and he inspired that same curiosity in me and in the people around him. I think that what makes losing him so difficult, we're not only mourning somebody that we loved, we're mourning the laughter, the conversations, the questions, and the joy of discovering things alongside him. I'm grateful that I had the chance to know him, to learn from him, and to share in his delight in the world. The curiosity and wonder he inspired will continue in us. He will be deeply missed, and he is deeply loved. Thank you.
All right, Jordan's going to play a piece for us. Jordan, does this have some meaning to your granddad? So it was a favorite song of your mother's and played at her memorial, and he said he liked it, so we're repeating. He was a fan. Good.
Good morning, y'all. My name is Jordan. I'm a grandson of grandfather Julius. And I can add that this song is called Nature Boy. I'm sure many of you know it. And I think it's a very appropriate song for Grandpa Julius as well, since his very loving nature. I'm sure as many of you know or who are familiar with the song know that the closing line is, the greatest thing you can ever learn is just to be loved and be loved in return. So I believe that Grandfather Julius definitely exemplified that. And I'll play a short medley with some improv, and then I'll play Nature Boy. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jordan. Marisa?
Hi, thank you all so much for coming. I wanted to read a short note from Arx, his wife, who couldn't be with us today, before I read my remembrances. And she says, "Although I cannot be there physically, please know that in my heart, it is with all of you. I believe with all my heart that my husband is in heaven, in the loving presence of our Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ, surrounded by light, peace, and everlasting love. Knowing that he is in God's loving hands brings me comfort during this painful time. He will always be in my heart, and I will love him and miss him every day. Until we meet again, may he rest peacefully in the presence of our Heavenly Father. Love you all, Arx." Thank you. So I just wanted to read something I'm calling the sound of Julius. Julius, he was many things to many people: a physician, a professor, a teacher, a mentor, a critical thinker, a husband, a son, father, and friend. He was one of my best friends. He spent his professional life caring for women and their babies, teaching generations of physicians, and giving back through knowledge and gifts he had been given. He was deeply intelligent, but what made him special was that his curiosity never seemed to end. He wanted to know more. He wanted to understand. He read constantly, thought deeply, asked questions, and was always ready to share what he knew. And he certainly knew a lot. At the dinner table, surrounded by family or gathered with friends, Dad could turn an ordinary conversation into a seminar, a debate, a history lesson, or a story. Sometimes we wanted to hear every word. Sometimes we were quite sure we had heard enough. He had a mind that was always moving. And then there was the whistling. We always knew Dad was home from work because we could hear him before we saw him. He would walk through the door whistling some incredible song, as though the music in his head had to find its way out into the world. He loved music, all genres, soft rock, 70s folk, soul, jazz, and classical. I remember singing with him always in the car. And surprisingly, he leaned into NWA when we introduced him to rap. But back to the whistling, because that is one of the things I hope we never forget. Because when someone you love dies, it is often the smallest things that become the most precious. The sound of his voice, the way he laughed, the stories he told, the way he sat at the dinner table, the books he was reading, and of course, that raised eyebrow, if you all remember, he would give with added effect. And for us, the sound of Dad's whistling on his way home. We were blessed to be loved by him as his daughters. The three of us knew a father who was not perfect, and none of us would want him to have been. We knew the strong opinions, the formidable intellect, the endless questions, and the ability to turn just about any gathering into an opportunity to hold court. But we also knew his love, and we knew the man behind the accomplishments. We knew Dad. And because we were so close to him, his absence will always be felt in ways that are difficult to put into words. There are the moments when we instinctively want to call him. I think, Laura, you called him the other day. Tell him something, ask him a question, or hear what he thinks. There will be the books that remind us of him. There will be the conversations when we can almost hear his voice joining in. And perhaps someday we'll hear someone whistling a familiar song, and for just a moment, it will feel as though Dad has walked back through the door. His life was long, but it was also very full. And he gave his intellect to medicine, he gave his knowledge to his students, gave his time and energy to others, and he gave his love to his family. And now what he gave to us becomes part of what we carry forward. So we're very grateful, or I'm grateful, for the lessons, for the stories, for the laughter and conversation, for the curiosity, and for the example, and most of all, grateful that we get to call him our father. We miss you, Dad, more than words can say, but we carry you with us. And if we are lucky, every now and then, we'll hear that beautiful whistling again, and we will know Dad is home.
Laura?
Hello, nice to see everybody. They save the best for last. Okay. I wanted to read something. So much. I probably will never venture to Minnesota to all the reasons that you know. I will consider it privilege to have been able, but I do not travel well. I will miss seeing old faces I will probably never see again, maybe in heaven. Grief never ends, but it changes. It is a passage, not a place to stay. Grief is not a sign of weakness, nor a lack of faith. It is the price of love. And lastly, Dad filled many roles in his life. He taught me a lot, and he was always there for me. That is why I think these words apply to him. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. And so he did. Very Unitarian. I will miss him. I will miss him so much. I tried to call him the other day to ask him something medically, and he didn't answer. Thank you.
Thank you. All beautiful words, beautiful memories, Beautiful reminders of the sounds of Julius and the love that he obviously spread, the gifts that he shared with the world. For my closing words today, before we hear from Elijah, I had found an essay by Reverend Arthur Foote. Was Arthur Foote still here when your family moved, or was it Roy Phillips? Okay, so Arthur was the minister right before Roy, and he was an excellent writer, and I wanted to just read a piece of one of his essays. He begins by quoting a description of George Washington Carver that says, "He was totally alive to all living things and totally attentive to all persons," which from what I've learned and know of your father was true of him as well. Foote goes on to say, "To be alive to all living things is to cultivate sensitivity and curiosity. It is to refuse to take even the most commonplace aspects of our experience for granted. A sense of wonder lies near the heart of this. The age of discovery doesn't lie somewhere in the past. There is ample ground for exploration, whether we are at home or abroad. Even the street where we have lived for years contains surprises if we only look for them. Each new day offers enchanting possibilities. This is the incredible wonder, that now is now and I am I, and love of all things real is realest, and all things good is best. That love that flows like sunshine from the heart of the being is my purpose, and warms me till my heart would burst." And so with these words, we close this service, this memorial, this celebration of life and our goodbye, or at least the beginning of our goodbye. It was 1 year ago yesterday that Julius passed. We've had some time to get used to this absence in your lives, but as we've heard multiple people say, it will never completely go away. That grief, that feeling of loss, and the feeling of wanting to hear his whistle, wanting to see his smile, hear his laughter, and hear his questions, and be confronted with his strong opinions. So Elijah wrote a poem. I'm going to invite him up in just a minute to come read that for us as our closing. After that, I'm going to invite the family to leave first. They'll go out into the parish hall where the reception will resume. I know most of you started it already. You'll be invited then to follow them out through the back of the church and join them there. I know there's a slideshow, there's photos, there's a lot of ways you can interact and share more memories of Julius. I also want to invite you, if you feel so called, you're welcome to come up and spend a moment with the urn, with the photo, and say goodbye if that's what you need to do. So Elijah, if you want to come on up.
All right, can everyone hear me okay? All right, so as was said, I wrote a poem for my grandfather, and because you don't have print versions out in front of you, I'll clarify that it begins with 2 quotes from other people, so it's not all me necessarily. Sketching Julius Butler from memory. I am no bird, and no net ensnares me. I am a free human being with an independent will. Charlotte Bronte, Jane Eyre. No one can slow the passage of time, nor should we try. Because without time, there would be no now. No moment in the sun, no moments, period. Without time, there would be no life. Alice Jones, Our Universe. Yes, there were sights seen and breaths taken, baby teeth, nursery rhymes, school books, and growth spurts, long shifts, big moves, good talks, and reflective walks, sunny days and rainy days, beginnings and endings, epiphanies, fears, hopes, and doubts, all these things and more. You were an entire universe, full of stories and mystery. Whatever existed in the breath of your 90 years, we'll never fully know. But in the end, your story belonged to you.
Invite the family.